Hey, I'm Tim McDonald and welcome to CBR. The MCU has been one of Hollywood's biggest, most successful, and debatably one of the most innovative franchises of all time. But what if Marvel decided to close the curtains on the franchise? How would they do it? Today on CBR, we're gonna look at how Marvel would end the MCU. The history of the MCU should determine the course of its ending. First of all, it should be stated that there's no evidence at all that the MCU is on the fast track to ending or something. It's just a theory here we're kicking around, because since 2008, the MCU has added so many superheroes and villains to the big screen. From major mainstays like Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man to lesser-known heroes like Star-Lord, Groot, and, regrettably, the Eternals, it built a vast, unique tapestry of Marvel content. They went deep into the Marvel vault, and it paid off, big time. With each new entry, it built upon the one prior to it, leading to the largest culmination in cinematic history. Any ending to the MCU would have to follow a similar pattern, giving these heroes a finale worthy of their journeys.
How many did you see?
14,605.
How many did we win?
1.
How the MCU should end. Regardless of the scenario that leads to the end of the MCU, Marvel needs to do a farewell, which would also likely be the end of Marvel Studios, that isn't just a knee-jerk reaction. These fans have stood by the franchise for years, following these stories and helping build the MCU into what it is today. So they need to get a due farewell. To do otherwise would be a cataclysmic slap in the face and would probably ensure that Marvel has no future whatsoever. The best way to begin ending the MCU is to wrap up the storylines and films currently running. Scheduled projects need to be released on time. The worst thing that they can do is cancel projects that both actors and fans have been waiting for and anticipation is built. It would be imperative for Marvel to just give everyone what they promised. That way, there would be no loose ends, no what ifs, and no snubbed expectations. The biggest hurdle would be crafting a plausible finale for the MCU. It seems counterintuitive to write a film to end the whole series, but leaving the series on a cliffhanger, that would be pretty much the worst. They can't do that. They need an ending that brings the whole series together one last time, and then let the curtains fall.
Assemble.
The idea of the MCU being a multiverse has been established and explored quite extensively in the latest slate of films, so it's definitely not impossible for some sort of massive multiversal event to threaten the whole MCU, possibly with some sort of singularity. By introducing a finish line that every character must cross, it creates a definitive trajectory as it closes. This end could be brought about by Galactus, Null, Eternity, or the Celestials. With the fate of the entire multiverse on the line, this could be a grand finale for the characters we've come to know over all these years. A giant hurdle to establishing this type of ending is a plausible build-up to such an event, because you could just have the giant Celestial who's asleep from the end of the Eternals sort of reawaken and suddenly break the Earth in two. Sure, you could do that, but it would be incredibly lazy. Bringing in a villain like Annihilus so that he can unleash his annihilation wave on the universe and destroy everything in a flash could work, but it's the same thing. He hasn't been properly introduced, so it would just seem like lazy writing. It's very important to give fans a proper send-off to the MCU. After following the series for more than 16 years, the final villain deserves the same planning and devotion that went into creating Thanos' arc.
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
Avengers Endgame is a superhero classic not just because of the events of the film, but how it was built, piece by piece, through each character's singular journey, culminating together. They could do the same thing with the villain in this new final MCU film. They're already starting to plant the seeds. We've seen Null in Venom: The Last Dance, and we know that Galactus is going to be in the Fantastic Four: First Step. so it's really just a matter of slow burning these characters to make it work as a possible ending. This is gonna be an event onto itself. It wouldn't just be a new film released with a shrug and forgotten about. This would be an Avengers Endgame level event. Marvel would have to promote and advertise it that way too. The beginning of the end is here, something to that effect. And with such a grim tagline, longtime fans would have to come out and see the ending of a series they've watched for more than 2 decades. Because this isn't just the end of a trilogy based on a book series or, the ending part 2 of a 4-part series. This is the ending of over 24 movies, of a dozen TV series. This is a lot more. The best route that Marvel could take would be to end the series on a positive note, because at the heart of every great comic book series, there's a positive message and a sense of hope. Watching all those heroes die or be wiped out would be dramatic, sure, but it would also be just a huge bummer, because there's so many fans who would put time, energy, and money who wouldn't want to see the MCU just end it all with cheap shock value.
We were hoping you could tell us.
The fans deserve a happy ending more than anything else. They deserve to see their favorite heroes wave goodbye, not buried in the ground. Sure, some heroes will die, but you want their ending to be meaningful.
I'm sorry, Tony.
With the major upheavals and unexpected events that have rocked the MCU over the last few years, it kind of gives an indication of how Marvel might handle it if they were looking to end the MCU.
What can I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
But currently, the future of the MCU just looks so bright. With the announcement of the upcoming Avengers Secret Wars and Avengers Doomsday, it seems like all the upcoming projects are on track to lead up to those major events. Seeing how these films will reshape and revitalize the MCU is definitely an event worth seeing. However, if these films were to fail, it's gonna be a rough road ahead for the MCU. Total closure is probably unlikely, but there would be a definitive hiatus. They would definitely need to go back to the drawing board. But it's important to remember, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been one of the most successful projects in the history of cinema. Total closure is probably unlikely, but there is the chance of a dedicated hiatus, and they might just go back to the drawing board altogether. Regardless, it's important to remember that the MCU has had one of the most impressive runs in Hollywood history. How do you think Marvel should end the MCU? Do you think that's gonna happen anytime soon? Who do you think the final villain should be? Let us know in the comments below, remember to subscribe, and thanks for watching CBR.